And we are back. So, with Royal Rumble around the corner, and obviously we're going to talk about Royal Rumble next week,
Right.
I want to talk about the road to WrestleMania. So, the road to WrestleMania is a period between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
Right.
Usually, it's with the Royal Rumble winner going to WrestleMania, and they coined Road to WrestleMania. The first indicator of this path, usually it's a babyface for a title match at WrestleMania.
Right.
The first indicator of this was the 1990 Royal Rumble with Hulk Hogan, who was the WWF champion, who won that Rumble, and the Ultimate Warrior. Mm-hmm. They had a confrontation that time because McMahon wanted to see how this would work. Two big baby faces,
right.
Two champions. Let's see what happens. The roof blew off of the place. There was so much electricity. McMahon is like, we're doing WrestleMania.
Right.
Like, this has to happen. There's nobody else who can face Hogan at this point. So that's really when they coined the road to WrestleMania.
Right.
The amount where that road goes varies dramatically.
Right.
Really, they put a lot of emphasis on this road around the 1990s, especially the late one, because of Stone Cold Steve Austin, especially going up against corporate champion Rock and getting his hands on McMahon for the most part, because McMahon did not want Stone Cold to have the title at WrestleMania. So really, him overcoming those odds was his road to WrestleMania, and usually that was like a year span.
Right.
And as once again, here's WWE doing booking correctly and thinking 5 steps ahead of time. Obviously not now, but keep in mind this was fucking 30 years ago.
Right.
Or actually now 40 years ago. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
not 30.
there are people who start their road to WrestleMania a lot later. So at this time, we're going to go up to WrestleMania 20. Mm-hmm. McMahon had the idea around No Way Out of having Brock Lesnar and Goldberg for a dream match. Because this is what he called it. He called it a dream match. Now, obviously, their road to WrestleMania started at No Way Out, but Eddie Guerrero's also did. They were going to put the title on Eddie Guerrero, but they were going to do it later. Right. They were not going to do it at No Way Out in 2004. And just think of how crazy that whole thing was with Eddie Guerrero and his title reign. We wouldn't have gotten Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle for the WWE champion at that year's WrestleMania. So, it really does vary. And there were big moments here. Another one that happened at No Way Out was a debut. Mm-hmm. And this was the NWO. Right. Because they made their appearance back in 2003's WrestleMania. Yeah. And that started 3 or at least 2 different road to WrestleManias. Right. Scott Hall and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 18, but also Hulk Hogan versus The Rock at WrestleMania 18.
So, sometimes it starts at the previous year's WrestleMania, and it builds up all the way.
John Cena and The Rock. Yep. With their match, they started that rivalry. They confirmed that match the night after. I think, was it WrestleMania 26?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And really, they confirmed the match, and John Cena went through his regular thing until The Rock came back to continue the program. Right. But Cena's, and then with that one where Cena lost, he kept losing. He's like, even though it was not explicitly said, this was due to the loss at WrestleMania. Cena kept losing. He lost the WWE champion. He lost to John Laurinaitis. He lost to a bunch of people. Right. And finally, halfway through the year, I think in August, he finally said, I know what I have to do to get out of this slump, because he kept losing, is I have to face The Rock again. Right. Another contextual one is one that was not for any title was Shawn Michaels. They had Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. Right. One of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. This was this generation's Macho Man Ricky Steamboat. Right. So with that, Shawn Michaels, even with the Slammies, he's like, you know what? Because they won Match of the Year. Right. He's like, I want one more opportunity to face you. Undertaker said no. Right. until Michaels screwed Undertaker out of that. That was a road to WrestleMania match. Now, not every single match at WrestleMania has to have a road to that goal.
Right.
These are only usually marquee matches, usually for a title or a big match.
Right.
Or it could happen on accident with the same thing like Eddie Guerrero.
Right.
Chris Benoit is another great example. His was a very traditional road to WrestleMania, but Mr. McMahon wanted Shawn Michaels Triple H again at WrestleMania.
Right.
But Benoit was so popular, they had to give him that chance.
Right.
And he was still so popular that he had to win the world title.
Yes, he did.
And he did win that one. A great moment. The road to WrestleMania is such a great, track to new main eventers as well.
Right.
Drew McIntyre, Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm pretty sure AJ Styles at some point or another will at least have a Royal Rumble win. But then there are those roads that WWE did not plan.
Right.
The big one that I'm thinking of is Daniel Bryan.
Right.
That is a long-term one that was dictated by the fans.
Right.
It got so loud, they couldn't ignore it.
Right.
And, John Cena had a bunch of roads as well, him and Batista, from an injury.
Right.
Because, the power bomb that broke John Cena's neck was a catalyst to the Batista-John Cena match, not just for that title, but for the injury.
Right. So, I guess now that we're kind of getting up here to the final minutes or so of the segment, when you're looking at your road to WrestleMania, do you see a lot of matches that are just dying to happen immediately, or did your road to WrestleMania for some of these rivalries start, or are they even occurring right now?
I think there are some that definitely are. I did see in the news that we didn't discuss that they don't have a main event match at WrestleMania. That's why they haven't really talked about it. But WWE is very good about saying, we're not talking about WrestleMania unless it's like a huge marquee match like your Undertaker Michaels or John Cena The Rock until the Royal Rumble happens, because then we have a clearer picture.
Right.
And I think that's why the road to WrestleMania always starts at the Royal Rumble, because usually people say, we get to know now WrestleMania matches.
So when we look at your road to WrestleMania, because that's what we're going to be discussing in the next few segments.
Yes.
Do you have? Will we be seeing some matches that we might have already discussed? Like, okay, this is definitely going to happen at WrestleMania.
Quite possibly. I think there are some WrestleMania matches in my fantasy booking that you may not think of.
Right.
And I think they're great. But
so as we go through, who's going to do it first and who's going to do it last?
You will do yours first.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, all right. So when we come back, Peanut Gallery will go through his fantasy booking of the road to WrestleMania.